Well, of course, you don't know that until Scotty Drew walks in and says, "Oh, what's wrong with their hair?" and rips the hat off, right? And
Oh
so
gosh.
you have to have someone help guide you through this process.
Okay.
So it's quite educational for you individually to see how different things are done, because we think, oh, you've got psoriasis. What's your BSA? Do you have any joint pain? How are we going to approach the way we're going to holistically attack this systemic problem? And that's not the way everyone thinks about healthcare. Not to mention the resources you and I have um, are just logarithmically more than what many people have. I'll give you an example. We were in Uganda at a rural clinic where they thought there was an epidemic of some MRSA type of infection that all these kids were getting. Yet when you walked in the room, you saw all these bullous kids sitting on mom's lap, and no one else had this rash except these like 20 kids. And I think most first year derm residents would have recognized linear IgA bullous dermatosis pretty quickly. And having been on a myriad of antibiotics, but that they had indigenously and were imported in from other places. And so we said, well, it's going to be pretty easy. You know, you and I would do a DIF and an H&E, and then we'd do a G6PD, and then off would be. Well, not only is there no needle to numb a biopsy site, there's no three punch, there's no formalin, there's nobody to read the slide, there's no blood test for the G6PD, and by the way, there's no dapsone. So, like, okay, what are we going to do?
Yeah.
And the beauty of the organization is when you get there, our organization takes care of the licensing. So you have a license to practice in Malawi, Uganda, Syria, where we happen to be. And then the Department of Tourism and Health sends an attaché, so you always have someone there. And after about 2 days, we had a little mini lab, and we had G6PDs. And by the time we left, everybody that could be on DAPS, because who is G6PD deficient? But a bunch of young type 5, type 6 Fitzpatrick kids.
Right.
So all of a sudden, we have the things that are now available to us, which makes me extrapolate. The first time, my very first trip to Kenya, we walked into the lab, and they had a finger stick, and they had three things. They had a hemoglobin, they had a Brucella titer, and an HIV titer. Not Brucella, I'm sorry, typhus.
Uh-huh.
HIV, hematocrit, and typhus was all they had. And I had to stop and look up typhus. I said,
Yeah.
is that typhoid? No, that's not. That's separate. What? And I thought, typhus? And in my lecture, one of my introductory lectures, I have a picture of like 6 kids, and they're all running around the playground with IVs in their head, getting medicine for their typhus. I thought,
Wow.
just crazy.
Crazy. Yeah. It really makes you think about the entire breadth of your dermatology knowledge. I think in clinic, a lot of us see, the zebras every once in a while, but otherwise we're pretty much on the straight and narrow in what we see. But
Well,
with,
and you know what's crazy, Ted? In sub-Saharan Africa, the pediatric transmission of HIV is like next to zero. PEPFAR has ensured that you can be in the deepest, darkest part of Africa, and the drone will still drop off heart therapy.
wow.
However, adult transmission of HIV is still pretty significant. You know, upwards of 30% in some places. And so when you got, so say you're below the equator, so your risk of HIV is about 30%. Your risk of malaria is about 99%, and your risk of tuberculosis is about 60%,
Hmm.
and 3 million people die every year of syphilis. So how about you have psoriasis?
Right.
Because 3, 4, 5% of people have psoriasis, and you've got all those other comorbidities, so you don't have a single functioning T cell.